Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
It is indeed the place to be right here on Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink with you on the 5-Pack. If you are looking for the latest that you need to know about, if you are looking for the latest that you're going to want to know about, and if you'd like to relive some old baseball players, you are here. For the next hour, we will be doing all of that right here on the 5-Pack. I want to thank our producer, Heather Klein, for helping us out. We have arrived at Friday. Congratulations to everybody. And happy birthday to everybody. What is it, May 19th? I did see today some of you may be celebrating Malcolm X's birthday. It's actually Malcolm X Day, by the way. You also could be celebrating Marshmallow's birthday. If you don't know who Marshmallow is, you're probably over the age of 25. If you don't know who that is. He's an EDM artist, by the way. I don't know who he is either. I just know he wears a giant, puffy marshmallow on his head. Good thing he's named Marshmallow. You'd hate to be named like Steak and you have a marshmallow on your head. But even he has a birthday. We will be running through the 5 things that matter, the 5 things that will matter, and we will be opening up a baseball card pack. We have been celebrating, like all things, 1989 to 91 this week. Today, we will close down the pack rips this week with 1991 Fleer Baseball. As we have mentioned before, this is the very difficult, actually, to get perfectly graded cards from this set, especially when somebody holds up a pack and dents it like this. It's very difficult to get PSA 10s. Part of it is because these things have so much yellow on the border that any nick, any indention kills the PSA grade. It also doesn't help that really nothing is worth money from 1991 Phil, but we're going to have fun. We'll probably see players we haven't even thought of in 25 years. We'll do that at the end of the show. As always, though, we begin with our 5 things that do matter. And speaking of 5, we almost had an NHL playoff game last night that went into a 5th overtime. But we didn't get there. We almost got there. Instead, we had 4 overtimes between Florida and Carolina. Eventually, Florida got a 3-2 victory with about 12 seconds to go in the 4th overtime. This ended up being, in game 1 of the series, the 6th longest NHL game on record. Let's take a look at some of the highlights, and I will add that we don't get to the payoff highlight till the end, but you will see there were at least a couple of moments in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and even in the 4th OT where this game could have ended.
Drury can't clear. Held in by White. White once again. Eric Stahl with the puck. Long-time Hurricane blocked off in front. And then it's up by Lundberg. He scores!
White was the player in front there that does clip skates with Anderson. There is some contact there. Let's see what they say.
There was goaltender interference.
Aho, back out for Burns. Tied at 2 in overtime. Aho with a shot, save Bobrovsky. Puck is loose, off the pipe from Jarvis. Osterreiden with the puck for Florida. Up the boards, Montour leading the rush, moving in on Burns. Puck comes around and kept alive in the zone by the Panthers, and a save by Anderson on Montour. Aaron Ekblad. Brent Burns with 15. Bennett keeps the puck alive. Tkachuk with a shot. He scores! Matthew Tkachuk with 12 and 7/10 seconds remaining in overtime number 4. Bobrovsky, Tkachuk, the hero in overtime number 4.
Turnover in a neutral zone. Burns has the puck. He reverses it. It's turned over. And then a quick play from Bennett to Tkachuk.
and a short side roof job by Matthew Tkachuk.
3-2 final. Matthew Tkachuk with the big moment. TNT providing the highlights. That's a long game. I went to a concert last night with some buddies. We got home probably around 11:20 Central Time. That was after midnight over in Raleigh, Carolina. And I flipped on the TV just wanting to get highlights. I flipped on the TV and like, oh, they're still playing. And oh, they're still playing at 1 a.m. And oh, they're still playing at like 1:20 in the morning out east. It reminded me of way back in the day, probably 23, 24 years ago, when me and a roommate in college sat down to watch the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Philadelphia Flyers, some spring OT action. We bought a 30-pack of Coors Light, not just for that night. Although it ended up being just for that night, it was like a 6 overtime game. And to this day, like he texted me last night, he's like, oh God, watching this Hurricanes-Panthers game reminds me of the pain of you and I sitting on the couch and watching the Flyers and the Penguins and somehow managing to drink almost 30 Coors Light. Oh, felt bad. I was hungover this morning just thinking about that moment all those decades ago. Huge win for Florida. By the way, the Panthers, how hot are they? Like, we're seeing what the Heat are doing in the NBA playoffs. Don't forget about their South Florida brethren, the Panthers. The Panthers are an 8 seed last night. They have won 7 consecutive games on the road. They have won 5 consecutive OT games in just this postseason. Last night, Brandon Montour, who almost had that goal, I think it was in the third OT, where he was just sitting all alone in front of the net. Brandon Montour played 57 minutes and 27 seconds last night. To put that in perspective, a regulation NHL game is only 60 minutes. It's as if he took one shift off in a single 3-period game. 57-27. I think that is the 6th highest total ever, or 10th. Check that. 10th highest total ever for minutes played in a game. Sergei Bobrovsky, we talked about him yesterday here on the show. We said, hey, Bobrovsky, we're going to get the good one or the bad one. Last night, definitely the good one. 63 saves in that game 1 winner. Not much rest for the weary. Tomorrow night, game 2, 8 o'clock, TNT will have it. Carolina is the favorite for game 2, minus 145. Florida's at plus 125. But for the series, and remember, this was about 50-50 going into the series. With the win last night, Florida is, I don't want to say a heavy favorite, but getting that win on the road critical. They are now minus 165 to win this series against Carolina, and the Hurricanes are at plus 140. Let us move to item number 2 that matters on this Friday. And of course, you might have guessed, we go from the NHL playoffs to the NBA playoffs. And we're talking about game 2 between the Lakers and the Nuggets. Game 1 was owned by Nikola Jokic. Had a massive triple-double, over 30 points, over 20 rebounds, over 10 assists. Well, last night he did it again. Nikola had his 4th triple-double in a row. Now, it was not to the level of what we saw in game 1. In game 2, 23 points, 17 rebounds, and 13 assists. It's still a triple-double, but not like epic. He's got 4 straight triple-doubles. He is now 3rd all-time in NBA playoff history for the number of postseason triple-doubles. Nuggets win it 108-103. And yes, Nikola Jokic, huge. You know who else was huge for the Nuggets? Jamal Murray, who went off in the 4th quarter last night.
Ball throughout the playoffs as Jokic falls to the floor.
He got in a collision with Schroeder.
Murray leans in, double clutching, got it. Murray fires away a 3. It's good. Jamal Murray struggling all night, making some big buckets here in the 4th. Green takes a 3. Shot clock at 5. Murray with Davis on him. He's going to have to put it up. Step back, 3-pointer. It's good. Jamal Murray from way downtown. And Denver goes up 4. Murray already 8 points here in the 4th quarter. Finds Jokic.
Back to Murray. Shot clock winding down, puts up a three. Bang! Jamal Murray once again from downtown.
You see no shooter, so Hachimura now has the responsibility of defending Jamal Murray.
Jokic back to Murray, another three-pointer. It's good! Jamal Murray red hot!
That was terrific transition defense by Jamal Murray, staying in front of LeBron James.
Murray, two-point shot. That's good!
On and on and on. 23 points in that fourth quarter for Jamal Murray. He finished with 37 on the night. Now, this game, with under a minute to go, Lakers still had a shot, and that is worth noting. In both these two games, both wins by the Nuggets, the Lakers have been holding tough. They're going to be back home coming up on Saturday night, taking on the Denver Nuggets, but they've actually played fairly well in these two games. Just a little too much Murray late last night. And I bring that up because as they return home for Game 3, again, it's Saturday night, 8:30. ESPN will have the coverage. Thanks to ESPN for the video there. Lakers are favored in Game 3 by 5.5 points. It makes sense. You know, the home team, they played the first two games close. I'll tell you another thing, the series odds. The Lakers, as good as they played, you now get them at plus 350. Now, the deck is stacked against them. They're down 2-0. It's like the Lakers can win 3 of the next 4 games, and they're still at best 3-3 with a Game 7 in Denver. So I understand the odds, but the Lakers have actually probably played better than being down 2-0 in this series. LeBron James last night did end up, I think, 1 rebound short of a triple-double. Overall game looks good if you just look at the box score. Played about 40 minutes. And I think the altitude and the minutes, and dare I say the age, was getting to LeBron just a bit. He was also asked to defend Nikola Jokic a lot in the third quarter and in the fourth quarter. And he did make some uncharacteristic mistakes in the fourth quarter. Now, again, he almost had a triple-double. Guy was a full-blown stud. But LeBron James at least looked a little gassed. I'm sure he is enjoying his rest day on this Friday, and he's also probably enjoying the fact that they get out of Denver and they go back to sea level as they play in Los Angeles. Again, tomorrow night, Saturday evening, ESPN with the coverage of the Nuggets and the Lakers as they go back to Los Angeles. Let us now go to the world of baseball. The third sporting piece of news that matters today comes to us from St. Louis, Missouri. One of the big stories in baseball this year has been the fact that the St. Louis Cardinals, they don't look like the St. Louis Cardinals. Now they're starting to win lately, but they are still 7 games under 500. More than likely, they're going to finish the month of May. And for the season, they're under 500. You don't ever see that in St. Louis. Another thing you don't ever see in St. Louis is like a barrage of home runs. Last night, taking on Julio Urias and the LA Dodgers, St. Louis did something that they have not done in over 80 years. Here's a taste.
Fly ball center. That ball is well hit. That ball is not coming back. A mammoth home run, and the Cardinals have the lead. Swing, fly ball hit high in the air toward left. At the track, at the wall. That one's gone. Look at Yepes. Swing, fly ball, headed toward that bullpen. Track, whoa, way out of here. Fly ball, right center. Well hit. It's carrying. It is gone. Two 3-run homers for Contreras.
Your Budweiser play of the game. This slider that catches the middle of the plate. And he said, forget making it a 5-run game. Forget the single. I got the home run opposite field, showing off the power.
Suddenly good times for Wilson Contreras. Had a couple of home runs yesterday. Had 6 RBIs. The Cardinals as a team hit 7 home runs in front of the home fans. Again, that has not happened in over 80 years. The last time the Cardinals in a game played in St. Louis launched 7 home runs, you have to go back to 1940. Interestingly enough, they were playing the Dodgers on that day in 1940, but it was the Brooklyn Dodgers, not the LA Dodgers. Also, that ballpark, Busch Stadium 3, last night gave us a new record there. 9 home runs between the two teams. 7 for the Cardinals, 2 for the Dodgers. That is a single game record. It's a pitcher-friendly ballpark for those who don't follow it, so you don't see a lot of home runs. But last night, the fireworks were popping. They're probably restocking all the fireworks here on this Friday. Big win for the Birds, 16-8 the final. And a couple of other notable things here. Julio Urias gave up 4 home runs in the 3rd inning, including a run of back-to-back-to-back. Julio Urias, who almost won the Cy Young last season, has now allowed 14 home runs this season. That is the worst total in all of Major League Baseball. So he hasn't looked too good. Cardinals, they are playing much better. 9 wins in their last 11. Now, again, they're still 7 games under 500, but they're only 6 games back in the NL Central. So they're playing badly. But hey, when you ain't chasing the Tampa Bay Rays, you still got a chance, and the Cardinals still have a chance. Tonight, they're going to get going at 8:15. It'll be game 2 of the 4-game set with the Dodgers. Tony Gonsolin is taking on Steven Matz in that one. Let's go to our 4th item that matters on this Friday. And dare I do it again? Kyle, you can't do it. Yes, I can do it again. I absolutely can do it again. When a soccer team in the United States currently is going to cost you $500 million just to join the league, I can talk about it. Yesterday, Major League Soccer, MLS, announced that San Diego, California, will be the home of team number 30 in the MLS. They are going through like crazy expansion in the last 5 years. I mentioned the price tag, $500 million. Now, if baseball or if the NFL expanded, the franchise fee would be like $5-6 billion. It'd be crazy. In baseball, it'd be like $2 billion. It'd just be silly money. It's pretty silly in MLS. Think about this. I looked it up 8 years ago, kind of at the forefront of MLS expanding. 8 years ago, the expansion fee was $70 million. Yesterday in San Diego, $500 million. If you go back to the start of MLS, which was 1996, and the original members showed up. I think it was like Columbus and Kansas City, New York, LA. An original team back in 1996 with the MLS cost you $5 million. Yesterday, we're at $500 million. And what's crazy about this is, I said, hey, this is team number 30. Heather, flash up the emblems, because I'm guessing a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, wait a second, there's 29 Major League Soccer teams. Yes, and there they are. St. Louis City down there at the bottom, my neck of the woods, they're brand new this year. A couple other brand new ones this year. I think Austin maybe is brand new, or Minneapolis, or I don't know. 29 teams. Now listen to this. Last season we had 28 teams in the MLS. Remember, we're getting ready for 30 now. Last season, 19 of the 28 MLS teams failed to make money. They lost money. LAFC had the highest operating income. They were at $8 million that they made in operating income. Now, it's hugely successful. Like I said, I'm in St. Louis and every single game is sold out. The atmosphere is spectacular. I'm a soccer fan. I'm not really an MLS fan, but I'm a soccer fan. It's fun. It's exciting. Kudos to the MLS. They have done something that back in 1996 looked like a waste of time. And here they are, 25, 26, 27 years later. And to join the league, it costs $500 million. But you start to think about, my God, like 3/4 of the teams aren't even making money. And it costs $500 million to join this league. Kind of nutso. Kind of crazy. And we talked about this yesterday with the ACC and like this hunt for revenue. That's a big thing going on with the ACC and keeping members. And right now, the Atlantic Coastal Conference is locked into this giant deal with ESPN all the way through 2036. They can't make any more money. Everybody else is making money because the rights fees are going. MLS has got a bit of this because remember, coming into this year, they signed that exclusive deal, mostly exclusive, with Apple Plus. And that's going to lock them into that deal for like 10 years. Which they got a lot of money. And again, I'm not picking on MLS. It's successful. It's obviously it's a league. It's something we got. And again, a lot of these places, they sell out. People love their soccer. But you start to think about, okay, money, making money. In the 25th year of this league, a lot of teams are still losing money. We'll see how things work out for San Diego. I think they start a couple of years. Manny Machado, by the way, is a part of that ownership group. Let's move to our fifth and final item from yesterday. If you were tuning in right after we signed off here on the 5-pack, right after us, we had the Best Ball BSN Invitational, a big best ball draft. Andrew Cooper, Brent Flynn, they hosted it, did a great job. You can find it online. You can head over to our YouTube page, go to bettersports.com as well. So it was a good rundown best ball draft. And best ball is a little different, of course, than other fantasy drafts. But when you're sitting in the months of April and May, it's kind of smarter to do the best ball stuff. And it's actually gotten very popular. And for those who aren't familiar with it, quite simply, a best ball draft is not going to really alter the order of players drafted, but it is a draft it and forget it setup. In effect, you draft your guys yesterday. You draft them whenever you want. You draft those guys. You don't ever have to set a lineup, ever. Because in best ball leagues, they just say, okay, who was your best quarterback this week? Okay, you get his points. Who was your best running back this week? Okay, you get those points. So there's no lineup setting here. And people do dozens of these leagues. And you can play for money in best ball. And again, you can draft now. You can draft in June, July, whenever you want. But especially at this early juncture, you get a lot of best ball drafts. So we did one yesterday here on BSN. And Andrew and Britt talked a bit about Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, running back with the Vikings, went in the 6th round. Now, he was the 21st running back off the board, which for the last 3 years, Dalvin Cook's kind of been considered a top 10 running back. There's a couple of things going on here. Age, and that's kind of weird to say when a guy's like 26, but age is a factor. There are rumors that Dalvin Cook could still be on the move at some point this offseason. And the third factor, and it kind of goes part and parcel with the age, is that Dalvin Cook continues to miss games. Yes, he is the proverbial stud running back. When he plays, he's great. But we're not getting enough games from Dalvin Cook. So Andrew and Brett were talking on yesterday's program with Alfredo Brown. He is with footballguys.com, and they kind of ran through the pluses and minuses for Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook, they could have released him already. At this point, what they're doing is potentially they could be looking to trade him, which you can, after June 1, you can trade and get that same discount. But they would have cut him if they were going to cut him. Do you have any insights on the Dalvin Cook situation? And if Dalvin Cook does get moved, where do you think would be a good trade partner or landing spot for a guy like Dalvin?
Well, first, I don't think that he ends up getting traded. I think that he is going to just end up getting cut. I think that any leverage that the Vikings might have had has been lost throughout this whole process of more and more reports coming out. With Dalvin, I'd say, I mean, you always want to assume that these older running backs that have a little bit of juice left are going to want to go to a contending team. I think because of his connections down here in South Florida and being a Florida guy, the Miami Dolphins could make some sense. And that's Mike McDaniel, the head coach, and Chris Greer have both kind of hinted at, hey, we might not be done adding to that running back room after drafting Devon Achane. That's a possibility. And then I think the other team that's been banded around a lot, which I kind of like for Dalvin, is the Kansas City Chiefs. And, you know, that's a team that last year you didn't know who they were going to target amongst the wide receivers. And it could be another situation like that. But for running backs, you don't know who's going to be out there in that backfield. And they're looking at an older Jerick McKinnon. And he had a good rookie season, but still there's not a whole lot tied to Isaiah Pacheco. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dalvin ends up in either Miami or Kansas City.
There you go, Alfredo Brown, again, on footballguys.com. And for more of that draft, again, you can find it on Twitter at Better Network, bettersports.com. Go to the YouTube channel. You can watch all of that. Should also remind you that if you're interested in maybe participating in a best ball league, Right now, we got a great special. If you go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog and you use the promo code FANTASYALARM, they will give you a $100 match on your first deposit. So again, you can do a lot of best ball over at Underdog. In fact, they've got a huge national contest with a lot of money that's available. So do check that out. Again, fantasyalarm.com/underdog as you, get set for the upcoming fantasy football season. It's coming. Oh, yes, it's coming. Coming up next for us here on the 5-Pack, we will get you the 5 things that do indeed matter for your Friday and beyond. But before any of that, I think our man, Corey Parson, is going to talk a little Packers win total. That's right now on the executive decision.
All right, NFL offseason is in full swing. That means it's time to start getting ready for the upcoming season. And why not look at some win totals? Right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook, the Green Bay Packers win total is sitting at 7.5. And maybe surprisingly to you, I'm going to play the over. The under right now is juiced to -115 because everybody thinks Aaron Rodgers out of town, Detroit Lions toasted the division, the Green Bay Packers are going to slide backwards. But if the Packer team was really that bad, the win total would be lower than 7.5. And you know what? I actually think the loss of Aaron Rodgers is going to be an addition on the field for the Green Bay Packers. I think Rodgers and his antics were hovering over the organization. Now I think they really can be a team. And I think Jordan Love, the 2020 first-round draft pick, is going to do a good job leading the Packers into the future. So don't buy into this hype of the Packers are a down team. Be like me and play the over. Curious of your comments on the Green Bay Packers upcoming season. As a matter of fact, while you're down there in the comments, check out a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Welcome back to the 5-Pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome back in. I don't know if this will matter, but Corey's taking the over on the Packers win total. I'm taking the under. I'm going to buy the anti-hype on the under with the Green Bay Packers. That's where I land for this upcoming year. But hey, different strokes and different opinions for different folks. That's what we do here on the Better Sports Network. As you get rip-roaring ready for Fantasy Football 2023, I want to invite you to go to fantasyalarm.com right now. You can get the next 6 months for half off. And it's full access, man. It's season long. It's DFS. It's what they got, 9-10 sports that they cover there. All you need to do is go to fantasyalarm.com and use the promo code ALARM50. Alarm 50, 60% off or 50% off for the next 6 months over at Fantasy Alarm. Okay, let's get to our 5 sports items that will matter as we go into tonight and even the weekend. We start with basketball, but we are not starting in Boston. No, I'm not talking about game 2 of the Celtics and the Heat. That is going on tonight, by the way. Instead, I'll talk about something else that's taking place late tonight. It's almost into Saturday morning. Out in L.A., 11 o'clock Eastern tonight, you can watch the game on ESPN. The WNBA will tip off their season. And tonight in L.A., Brittney Griner, who you might recall, would she spend 10 months in a Russian prison for like having, a few flakes of weed? 10 months. Well, Brittney Griner is back. Brittney Griner, hash oil, not flakes of weed. Come on, Kyle. Hash oil. That's what the cool kids do. Anyway, Brittney Griner was thrown in a Russian prison for 10 months. It really became an international story. She's one of the best players in the WNBA. It would be akin to like Kevin Durant spending 10 months in a Russian. You think Kevin Durant would have ever spent 10 months in a Russian prison? No. Maybe 10 hours. I don't know about 10 months. Anyway, great news. Brittney Griner is back tonight. She is with the Phoenix Mercury. As noted, the game's going to be on ESPN. I should touch on this. Ratings are up for the WNBA. Last season, they were up 20%. I think they had their highest rated season in terms of TV viewership since like 2008. So maybe things are picking up in the WNBA. This Griner story is a big one. Earlier, I think this week, maybe late last week, she met with the media in Phoenix. She has not done any one-on-one interviews about the situation, but they did have a pretty long press conference where the media was able to ask questions to Brittney Griner. And she talked about, as so many do, that when you are in that situation, whatever it may be, where you kind of lose your freedom and you start to think about, oh, the little things mean more. She certainly believes that the little things mean more after the 10 months in that Russian prison.
Taking anything for granted. You know, life is short. Things can change at the stroke of a match. So going into this season, just appreciating everything. I mean, you know, the things that I always say, you know, appreciate every moment, you know, don't take it for granted. But it's so true. Once something like this happens to you, like when people say that, it hits home, like it hits closer to you. So just taking it all in. I mean, just walking in to the arena, one day I had a workout here, and they had, you know, mercury all around and everything, and it was just such a surreal moment. No one was in there. I was the first one to walk on the court, and it hit me hard, you know. So just looking forward to all those moments, just walking in on the first home game, the grind, you know, the sweat, the blood. Hopefully not too much blood, because that means injuries, so hopefully not too much of that. But just taking all that in, you know, I missed it. Like I would have rather been doing a 2-a-days, you know. Coach, don't get any ideas. But I would have rather been in a 2-a-day dying, and you know, than to be where I was. So just looking forward to being back to that.
Welcome back. Certainly a different atmosphere than you had for almost a year, which is kind of crazy. Odds on this game, yes, you can wager on the WNBA. The Sparks out of LA, they're the home team, favored by 2.5. But beyond that, Brittney Griner entering this year is the 6th pick for league MVP. She is currently listed at plus 1,300 for the league's MVP. Top favorite is Brianna Stewart at plus 280. WNBA season tipping off tonight. Let's go back to baseball for our second item that will matter. And it's great to have Brittney Griner back in our lives. It's also great if you're a baseball fan under totally different circumstances to have Jose Altuve back in our lives. It does appear that tonight the diminutive Houston Astros second baseman will make his season debut. You might recall in March, he was in that World Baseball Classic and suffered a broken thumb. Well, he's back tonight. He's about 2 to 4 weeks ahead of schedule. When the injury originally happened in March, they were kind of thinking that Altuve would be back in the batting cage at about this point, and that then he'd, you know, go through a week of that, then maybe do another week and a half of rehab. Nah, he's back before June 1. So for anybody who took a shot on Jose Altuve, and drafted him and got a discount, you're getting him back early, just like Bryce Harper. Got him back early. We're getting Altuve back early. Tonight, the Astros are taking on Oakland. Couple of things with this. First, a shout out to Mauricio Dubon. You know, it's great to have Altuve back and everybody's happy, but Mauricio Dubon has been holding down the fort in Altuve's absence. If you're to look at the Houston Astros and say, okay, defending world champion Houston Astros, who's your leading hitter? It's not Yordan Alvarez. It's not Alex Bregman. It's not Kyle Tucker. Mauricio Dubon leads the Astros in hits, leads them in batting average. I think he's second in WAR. Defensive metrics have loved his work at second base. And according to a lot of them, he's a top 5 defensive second baseman. Now, he's not going to steal a job from Altuve. We know that. Altuve is going to be leading off immediately tonight. But Dubon played quite well, and he now becomes a super utility guy for the Houston Astros. As a team, they are playing better. They get Altuve back tonight. That is key. One thing to keep in mind, and I looked at this today just to make sure my memory was correct. Jose Abreu, who's in his first year with the Astros, he is still looking for his first slow trot around the base pass. We are up to 175 plate appearances. And Jose Abreu entering this year, he's averaging like 26, 27 home runs a year. He's got 0 right now. 175 plate appearances. Been a rough start for him. Tonight, if you were to predict a home run for Abreu, his first as an Astro, you can get that number at DraftKings at plus 450. Altuve, who is taking his first in-game cuts in 2 months, he's plus 360 for a home run. So that's how far Abreu's fallen. Plus 450 for him to go yard. Altuve has got some pop too. But again, it's his first game back. Plus 360. Again, Astros taking on the A's first of 3 later tonight. Let's go to our third item that will matter. And we stay in the world of baseball, where tonight the Atlanta Braves, who I think it's fair to say one of the top 3 teams in all of baseball. Tonight, the Braves, who are a fairly scary offense. I mean, let's look at the rankings here. They are one of 5 teams in baseball averaging more than 5.2 runs per game. They are tied for the most home runs in the National League. They are number 1 in the National League in OPS. So the Braves can hit. They're 27-16. Tonight, they will be up against Bryce Miller of the Seattle Mariners. Now, Bryce Miller, it's only been 3 starts. But it's been 3 great starts for Bryce Miller. But tonight, the test is Atlanta. This game's on the road. Here's what Miller's done. 3 starts, 1 run allowed in 19 innings. Bryce Miller has a .42 whip in 19 innings. Bryce Miller has 18 strikeouts to 1 walk. What's his big pitch? It's a 4-seamer. 98, 99. I think I saw it over at Fangraphs. Bryce Miller on that 4-seam fastball is in the 99th percentile for spin rate. So it'll be fun tonight. This is a big test. I think Miller face Houston, maybe Kansas City and Oakland. Sort of monster. Also on the other side of the pitching matchup, it's Bryce Miller up against Bryce Elder. So we've got Bryce versus Bryce. Welcome to 2023. Elder is 3-0 with a sub-2 ERA for the Atlanta Braves. 720 is the first pitch. Current odds, Atlanta is minus 145 for the victory. Seattle is plus 125 for the win. And of course, you can do individual pitching wagers. For Miller tonight, Bryce Miller, under 1.5 walks. And remember, he's got 1 walk this year in 19 innings. Under 1.5 walks is minus 110. Under 2.5 earned runs for Bryce Miller is plus 110. But to get the win tonight, Bryce Miller is plus 225. So you kind of look at that money line, which does favor Atlanta, and then you see Bryce Miller just to get the win, plus 225, despite the very successful first 3 starts. Moving to item number 4, 5 things that will matter for your Friday. We've got another NHL playoff series starting up. I beg of you, don't make it as long as last night's Game 1 in the East. Tonight in the West, we will have the Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Dallas Stars. Game 1 of this series. Money line for tonight, we've got Vegas sitting at minus 125, Stars plus 105, kind of a coin toss. And frankly, you look at the series odds, kind of a coin toss here. Vegas is minus 130 and Dallas is plus 110 for this matchup. Probably the big players on each side. And there's a lot of big names. But for the Stars, Jake Ottinger, who really had a rough series against Seattle in the previous series, but then he stood on his head in Game 7. But before that, he wasn't very good in net for the Dallas Stars. He's going to be critical for them. And on the Vegas side, it's Jack Eichel, who is making his first ever playoff appearance. And right now, he's kind of playing like a Conn Smythe guy. Conn Smythe goes to the MVP of the playoffs. Jack Eichel currently is number 2 on the board to take home the playoff MVP award. Matthew Tkachuk, who had that goal last night for Florida, Tkachuk is playing great, and he's at plus 450. Jack Eichel is at plus 600 when we look at the futures game for NHL playoff MVP. Let's hear from one of the coaches. We'll go to Bruce Cassidy of the Vegas Knights. Now, he is in year number 1 in Las Vegas, and he has his team in the conference finals. He is in year 1 replacing Pete DeBoer. Why do I bring that up? Well, guess who's coaching on the other bench? It's Pete DeBoer. So DeBoer had been with Vegas the previous 3 years and had been fairly good. Last year was a letdown, but been pretty good in 3 years with the Golden Knights. He was let go Cassidy takes over in Vegas, and DeBoer lands in Dallas. Tonight, DeBoer will be taking on his old charges. Bruce Cassidy was asked, hey, does the Stars coach have any kind of edge here facing his old team just a year later?
I think it'll help them a lot because he does know individual tendencies of the players and can point out certain things that they may be able to do. You know, I was in Boston 6 years. If we play them tomorrow, I certainly know some of what maybe you don't see on film, the little things of a system, but of an individual. So that's where that he'll help their defensemen against our forwards, or our forwards against their forwards forechecking our D, whatever the case may be. We have a guy in the room, John Stevens, that coached in Dallas last year, so he's going to know individual tendencies of a lot of the Dallas guys. So I think there'll be more information available early in this series. You know, Mish and Craig know Pete how he likes to coach. So, I mean, when we have our meeting this morning, I'm just putting my feet up and relaxing because those guys have all the information. And it's up to me to decide what to do with it in a couple days.
Special times there in Las Vegas. They're going to be hosting Game 1 tonight. They have home ice advantage. 8:30, by the way, for the drop of the puck. ESPN will have the coverage this evening. And I mentioned the special times. 6 years, I think this franchise has been going. This is their 4th conference championship that they've already made. So major success there for the Golden Knights. And I will admit that first year, that second year, whenever it was that they made the Stanley Cup Finals, everybody who looked at how that team was built, they said, well, this is great and all. This is a surprising expansion team making the Stanley Cup Finals. Wow, that's crazy. Everybody looked at it and said, dude, they're going to have salary cap issues, though. They took on all these bad contracts. They got these old players. How in the hell are they going to survive? They may be doing well now, but there will be a price to pay down the road. There really hasn't been one. And full kudos to everybody there in the front office with the Golden Knights, including me. Said, this is great to start, but it ain't lasting. You're going to be in salary cap hell. No siree. And again, they had a huge letdown season last year. It was kind of a reset. They made the big trade for Jack Eichel. They've always been willing to make trades and spend money. Hugely successful organization. And over the next 40, 50 years, any time the NHL expands, and we saw this with Seattle, everybody will point to Vegas and say, man, we're hoping to do what Vegas did. We'll see how they do in this series. Again, a slight favorite against the Stars. -130 is the series money line, in Dallas is at +110. Finally, we get to the 5th and final item that will matter. And much like 2 weeks ago, I'll cheat a little on the Friday edition of the 5-pack. 2 weeks ago, I previewed the Kentucky Derby. Today, shall we preview the Preakness? Yes, the Preakness, which take place just outside of Baltimore, Maryland. They will be racing tomorrow. What is this? The 148th running of the Preakness Stakes. And, of course, all eyes will be on the winner of the Kentucky Derby, who I don't want to say it's rare that the Derby winner actually shows up in Maryland, but lately it has been. I was looking at this. 4 of the last 5 Kentucky Derby winners did not come to the second jewel of the Triple Crown. But this horse, Mage, is going to be there. He will be racing coming up tomorrow. Got the big victory 2 weeks ago. Very interesting story if you haven't followed this with Mage. And if you don't know much about horse racing, you probably know that, wow, that's an expensive sport, right? Yeah, that's pretty pricey, right? Check this out with Mage. It is a part of a collective of owners. I think the number is about 382 owners that this horse has. Now, 2 weeks ago, when it was saddled with the roses, as you can see there, all 382 owners of Mage made some money. What they've done, this is very unique. It's kind of a new startup, kind of a way of bringing tech to horse racing. But what they did is there's about 25% of the ownership in Mage, the Kentucky Derby winner, that is owned by micro shareholders. And there's a lot of stories written about this. You can certainly find it out. If you go online, there's a company called Commonwealth. And what they have created is the ability, and it's not just horses, they do other sports too, but Commonwealth has created this ability to spend like $50 and you get a share of the horse. And so there are 382 owners, and they believe that 2 weeks ago, with that Derby win, those 382 owners They turned 1 share into $92. I think they paid like $50 for it. So 1 share, you almost doubled your money on that share. And I might add that the real money with these horses is not winning races. The real money, and for all those 382 owners, the real money is the stud fees that Mage is going to have. And those stud fees only go up with each successive win. So you already won the Derby. Now you've got the second crown jewel. They will get racing just after 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Here are the odds for the race. And you can see Mage there starting in the 3 gate. Heavy favorite. Now there's a couple of horses there. Chase the Chaos, 50-1. Coffee with Chris, 20-1. And Perform at 15-1. I bring up all 3 of those because this is a pretty wild stat. In 147 years of racing at Pimlico, only, let me get this right, 4 horses have won the Preakness with odds that were worse than 15-1. So you've got 3 long shots here, and they're not just long shots in this race, they're long shots against history here. Chase the Chaos, Coffee with Chris, and Perform. They are all 15-1 or worse, and only 4 horses in the history of this event have ever won with odds like that. Again, Mage 8-5. Your second betting favorite is First Mission, although I believe First Mission was scratched this morning. So now we're looking at a 7-horse field. National Treasure is going to be up there. Blazing Sevens is going to be up there. But this is setting up pretty well for Mage because First Mission was scratched this morning. He is not going to be racing in Pimlico. And we'll see. We still got to get through another night. There may be more scratches. But right now, Mage, a heavy favorite. And I would suspect the odds are swinging even more in his favor. And if he wins the second one, then we get all excited for 3 weeks from now with the race at Belmont in Elmont, New York. There you go. Those are the 5 things that will matter for today, for tonight, for the weekend. Take a break here. When we come back, it is time to rip open a pack of 1991 Fleer Baseball. We do that next right here on the Better Sports Network.
Hey, it's Rick Hamla for Better Sports Network. Will Jason Tatum and the Celtics bounce back tonight in Game 2? Kinda. Tatum needs to be smarter and more aggressive. That I do know. His fourth quarter stats in Game 1, 0 field goals, 0 assists, 3 embarrassing turnovers in a 90-second span in crunch time, taking us to the twilight zone. Another problem. Butler was on Tatum for almost every possession of the second half, and the action went to the other side, pick and rolls with Jaylen Brown. Tatum needs to demand the ball and go quicker when he does get the ball against Butler, as opposed to avoiding the matchup. Boston will win tonight, but I don't see them covering the 9-point spread. And I'm staying away from Tatum's point prop at 29.5 because I don't trust him to have a mega game against Jimmy Butler. In Game 2 at New York with a 1-0 lead and without Butler, the Heat almost beat the Knicks because they always play hard. Heat culture will try to go in for the kill tonight and cover the 9. Be sure to check out the comments below for a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Got about 10 minutes left on this edition of the 5-Pack. If you ever miss us, you can always hunt us down on demand. You can catch some of our highlights on Twitter, so make sure to follow us there. Coming up later today at 3 o'clock Eastern, it will be the Fantasy Football Game Show, courtesy of the guys from Front Yard Fantasy. They get rolling at 3 o'clock. We have some baseball DFS headed your way at 5 o'clock. And then later tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, Campus to Canton is headed your way. I'm going to be back with you next Monday. We get going each and every weekday afternoon at 12 o'clock Eastern. Also, each and every weekday afternoon at about this same time, 12:50 or so, it's time to rip open a pack. Today, we are seeing what will be in store for us with 1991 Fleer Baseball, or as Fleer always called them, logo stickers and trading cards. I always wondered, why did the logo stickers lead the trading cards? But that's just what Fleer did. So let's see what we've got here. We have opened a pack, I think 1 pack of these before. These are yellow. These are very yellow. Now, I'm told, Heather, you've got an image of maybe the cards we're on the hunt for. What we are looking for is Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Bonds on the same card. Look at that. I think that's at the All-Star game at Wrigley Field. Man, look at those guys. Young, excited. Barry Bonds' head isn't the size of an overgrown watermelon. Barry Bonds pre-roids. Look at those happy guys. Barry Bonds wasn't a jerk, I don't think, back then either. King Griffey Jr. just looks happy to be it. But there you go. Second generation stars. Everybody knows King Griffey Sr. And then Barry Bonds was the son of Bobby Bonds. So I think that's one of the cards we were looking for. And if you're wondering, wow, that's really yellow, the entire set is that yellow. So let's get into the fun. We will start with our team logo sticker cards because, hey, Fleer even yells about it on the front of the pack. Team logo stickers. This is a collector's item. You know why? Because this guy doesn't exist anymore. We got a collector's item. Chief Wahoo. Could get away with this, I guess, in 1991. Hell, you could get away with it in 2021, but no longer with Chief Wahoo. So the smiling Indian is kaput. But years from now, people will open this up and say, really? Really? So the Indians, the Tigers, the Mets, and the Phillies. Let's see. What do they give here? What is this? Top 10 of the Phillies. This is all time, by the way. It looks like Mike Schmidt, 548 home runs. Wow, at this point, I know Ryan Howard has certainly leaped beyond because I think Howard even has 500 home runs or at least 400. Mike Schmidt, 548, was the all-time Phillies home run leader. Next up on that list was a guy at 259. Last name of Ennis? Don't know if I recognize that one. Strikeout, Steve Carlton. Wins, Steve Carlton. So there it is, your all-time Phillies list. Collector's item. The Cleveland Indians. And what do you know? We start with a tribesman, Deion James. I always love, and you can see it on this card. What position do you think he's playing when you look at this card? Now, all of us know that, right? I don't have to educate anybody on that, do I? What position do you think he's? First base. What position does it say he plays at the bottom? Outfield. I always say, and I know, hey, this is a minor thing, but come on. If you're going to put the guy plays so-and-so position, at least have a photo of him playing so-and-so position. I don't want my catcher first baseman to be standing in center field. Maybe we'll get that with Dalton Varsho. I don't know. The other thing with this card, and Fleer would include a headshot on the back of these cards. So here's Deion James up close on the front of his card. Here's Deion James up close on the back of his card. This is the same photo. Same exact photo. Like, seriously. Deion James, I guess, how many games did he play that year? 87. Yeah, the photographers had 87 moments to get Deion James' photo, but they said, you know what? Take one photo of Deion James, and I want you to use it for the front and the back. That's what they thought of you in 1991, Deion James. Here is a very happy middle reliever, Mike Perez, Old Busch Stadium. I got to see if I recognize. Wonder who that is in the background. I always wonder. Now, that's a legitimate, like, I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a young lady in the background. Got her power suit on, it does appear. Wonder who that young lady is that's sitting in the background. This is, I know it's the Old Busch Stadium. You can see the red seats. It's right before a game. There's actually people sitting in the stands. But there you go, 1991 Fleer. Mike Perez, nothing but a middle infielder. Here is Joey Cora, not Alex Cora. There is relation between Joey and Alex. I don't know exactly what it is. But Joey Cora was probably the better major league player, and Alex, of course, has been the manager. You'll see the old school. Oh, almost dropped the card there. Check out the old school Mizuno cleats. I like that. I like that. I was a Mizuno guy back in the day. Had a mitt that was a Mizuno mitt. In fact, that same Mizuno mitt was autographed by one Rob Dibble. Maybe we'll get a Rob Dibble here in the 1991 Fleer. No, Kyle. Instead, you're getting an Anthony Telford. Thanks a lot, Fleer. Anthony Telford. Ugh. Sandy Alomar Jr., excellent catcher throughout the 90s. Not Hall of Fame worthy, but a very, very good catcher. He started in San Diego. He was traded to Cleveland. I think he might. What the deal? Let's see if it says here. He was traded with Roberto Alomar. They became the first brothers to play against each other in the All-Star game. Sandy and Roberto. Roberto had a very good career. Sandy, a good career. Sandy, of course, was a part of everything great for the Cleveland Indians, especially in that run in the late 90s. Here is a man that we have seen probably on 3 or 4 different occasions here on our pack rip, Rafael Palmeiro. I don't hate it because it is what it is, but you can't get a card of Rafael Palmeiro without thinking of him sitting in a Senate chamber, pointing his finger at like U.S. congressmen and saying, "I did not do steroids." And then like 6 months later, he was busted for steroids. Whatever. Carlos Hernandez. I do not know a thing about Carlos Hernandez, and neither does Fleer. You look at all that space they had to write about Carlos Hernandez, and they said, screw it. Don't need to. Which was probably a very good executive decision because he didn't do much for the remainder of his career. Jimmy Kramers. I don't recognize this one. Backup catcher for the Braves. Played 30 games in 1990 with the Braves. Right before the Braves took off and became a powerhouse. Jimmy Kramers. I think he got lost in the shuffle. This guy did not get lost in the shuffle. Jose Rio, excellent pitcher. In fact, it was this year that the Reds won the World Series in 1990. I believe it was. Jose Rio, a huge part of that. Might have been the World Series MVP there in 1990. Here is an early shot of a man who eventually signed a contract with the LA Dodgers, and everybody's like, oh my God, can you believe all the money that Kevin Brown is getting? And it was like, I think he went to the Marlins, or what was it? Maybe he went to the Marlins and signed with the Dodgers after that World Series. Around 97 or so, Kevin Brown got all this money. And I want to say like, maybe it was like 12 million a season. I don't know, something like that. And now, of course, we have guys making 40 million a season. So Kevin Brown, not that overpaid, even though it was 25 years ago. Nick Asaski, who we've mentioned before around these parts. Asaski, unfortunately, ran into some dizzy spells, I do think. And so his career kind of faded. Pretty good player in the late 80s, and then had the vertigo and stuff like that, so it kind of screwed things up. Kevin Wickander, another Cleveland Indian, another lefty middle reliever. Every time I open these packs and I get, a Kevin Wickander or an Anthony Telford, I think to myself, in 1991, these guys all got cards. I mean, we were making 700 card sets. So like middle relievers who through 35 innings, they got cards. I wonder nowadays, these guys don't get cards, do they? Like Luis Aquino doesn't get a card, does he? I don't know. Maybe he does. One more card to go, and I got to say, this will be to me. But back around this era, maybe this is 1991, and I would say maybe more from 93 to 97. I went through a heavy, heavy phase of Stratomatic baseball. Crazy phase, me and my buddies. Stratomatic throughout the summer. And one of my good friends, Carson, at the time, he would own the White Sox. He always had the White Sox. And when he would make a pitching change, he would bring in this player, which I'm going to show you. And we would give this guy a nickname, and we would say that he would, back in the day, people would ride in on like golf carts. Like really, they did. They rode in golf carts. So when this guy came in on Stratomatic baseball, we said he was riding in the Pope Mobile. Why did we say that? Pope Don Paul is what we called this guy. Not John Paul. We'd call him the Pope. Pope Don Paul. And we'd always envision that Don Paul was coming into our Stratomatic game riding in the Pope Mobile, waving to everybody. And then he'd proceed to give up like 3 runs in the 7th. There it is, 1991 Fleer baseball. Not a very exciting pack of cards. I hate to remind you, I got more of these starting next week. We'll see you on Monday with more of the 5-pack, 12 Eastern, right here on the Better Sports Network.